do you believe hard to figure? Let me know if you can see and hear me. Um, find yet another guess people are having issues. So hopefully you can see and hear me. Anyways, back on track. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do the news tonight with my new full-time co-host, Addie. But we will get all this sorted out, and she'll debut next week. Um, so definitely tune in for that. So we're just gonna go on with tonight's show. What's left of it. I was talking about attachments and how there are both good, bad, but there's like different like levels almost. Like I was explaining what a shade was, which is kind of like this negative attachment that not only feeds on but can actually fuel negative emotion. To the point where there have been actual cases that I'm aware of, at least, where they've actually caused people to do things they wouldn't normally do, like kill themselves or drink or use drugs till it kill them. Things of that nature, and it's not to say that that's an excuse for that kind of behavior, because the way shades work is those problems are already there. All they really do is they kind of like bring them up to the surface and then blow everything up. Um, and so they can be very nasty, but when it comes to getting rid of them, or like on a spiritual basis, they're relatively weak. Um, so I did have to deal with one recently, and I kicked its butt basically and sent it on its way, and it was good. And different people might have different methods for that. My way is to use the native way, sage, and I pray to a Uniqua, who Uniqua is the Cherokee name for the creator, and I ask Uniqua to grant us uh, his blessings and protect us from evil. And I'll actually repeat that phrase over and over and over again. I do the same thing for a house cleansing, but the reason it works is because I have absolute faith that it works. There's not even a moment of doubt in my mind that it's going to fail, ever. And so far it hasn't, with one sort of exception, which is a topic for another time. But the reason I say it's sort of an exception is because I think there's some extenuating circumstances there, if you catch my drift. Anyways, and that's just one example of like a negative attachment. There's all sorts. There's oppressive attachments. There's attachments that are both what I call supernatural in nature and paranormal in nature. The difference is with supernatural, we're dealing with things that were never alive in the first place. They've always been a spirit. They're always going to be a spirit. Things like angels or demons would fall under this category, because they haven't had life like we have, and therefore it's beyond the realm of human understanding. Hence supernatural. And then there's paranormal. Paranormal are typically spirits that can be attachments that were alive at one point, and most of these are they were either victimized and that's how they died in some way, or they were very aggressive, very kind of not kosher people while they were alive. Um, at least when we're talking about the negative side of it. When we're talking about the positive side of it, these are your really happy, really content, really kind of loving people, while they were alive. And then, because when we die, we don't stop being who we are. And some of the things I've included, let's say by the spirits, include like certain aspects of what it's like without really knowing, obviously, because I'm not dead, I'm here, I'm flesh and blood, but you don't stop being who you are just because you die. And more than anything, really, all you want to do is you want to um, I'm trying to think of the correct word that I want to use here. They get very protective of life. The good natured ones do. They get they want to interact with us and not just simply watch us. They want to interact with us because it reminds them of what life was about in the first place. Um, so very much not a bad thing. Um, they are not trapped. Not to say that there isn't such a thing as trapped spirits, but in my experience, they are not trapped. They're around because it's what they choose. Because while we are still ourselves when we die, we also do not lose free will when we die. Um, Also, kind of works in opposite for the negative side of things. There are spirits that were very angry, very resentful, very jealous, very much ruled by negative emotions, and very aggressive when they were alive, and so they continue to be that when they die. Like a good example of that is, uh, I believe it wasn't the Goldfield Hotel. What hotel was it? It was some hotel that in the Southwest that Ghost Adventures did, and the name escapes me right off the top of my head. But the guy that owned the hotel, he was kind of like the sheriff of the town. He was also kind of like a de facto mayor, but he like ruled the town with an iron fist, and he was like a tycoon. Like I don't remember if it was mining or rail, but it was one of those two. And I mean, he was so he's really such a douchebag. I mean, like about it all. Like he didn't care about people. This is a guy like uh, maybe you'll remember this. This is a guy that his like girlfriend got pregnant and he decided to chain her to a radiator. in one of the hotel rooms. I don't know. You might remember that episode of Ghost Adventures. I don't remember exactly where it was. I just remember I really liked that episode because of um, how a lot of the evidence was pieced together. But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, that would be kind of like the negative aspect of what I'm talking about. So like if something like that were attached to you, it was around you constantly trying to beat you down, trying to make you feel bad or do bad things or trying somehow to manipulate your world in a negative way, that is very much an attachment. And see, I think what confuses people a lot of the time, with the exception of things like shades, which actually are attached, attachment is kind of a misleading word because most spirits aren't really attached per se. The attachment is more of an emotional one. Whereas with shades and the like, I can't really say it's more of a physical one, but the way I just describe it is kind of like their upper torso is very human-like. They've got arms, shoulders, head, just like a human does. Sometimes they have glowing eyes, sometimes they don't. But the bottom part of their body is kind of like this smoky, black, shadowy, wispy kind of tendril that like wraps around the person's body that they're attached to, and it actually kind of keeps them tethered to that body so that they can actually go off and do things in, like the other room or around you, but still technically remain attached. That's what I've seen. Okay, so I mean, you can believe me, you can take it with a grain of salt. That's up to you. There's a flip side of that. There's um, I don't really know if they have a name other than what I use when I refer to them. And it's a term I actually borrowed from, and don't laugh. I actually borrowed this term from the TV show Charm. I call them white lighters because what they do, they're almost like guardian angels in a way, um, and they too oftentimes are tethered to said person, but rather than uh, you know affecting all negative emotion, all negative outcomes. It's very much the opposite. It's all positive. It's all uplifting. It's all loving, kindness, compassion. It's that it's like that feeling, that warm, fuzzy feeling you get like just because you help somebody. And I'm not saying that every time you feel that it's one of these white lighter things, but you know that's a kind of good description. That feeling is a good description of how people feel uh, when they have one of those. Except it's constant. It's like these are the people that almost seem too happy to us. Now, see, I personally know that I don't have one of those. Too much stuff makes me mad. Obviously, otherwise, I wouldn't have world famous rants that everybody likes to hear. So, So I know I don't have one of those, but I have seen them, and they're kind of amazing. Um, I mean, if you learn nothing else from me by tuning into the show and listening to this show, learn this: the paranormal world is far more beautiful than what most people give it credit for. Yeah, there's good and bad in everything. Even some of the most beautiful flowers on the face of the earth happen to be poisonous. So I mean, kind of keeps that balance, you know. So and then there's other ones too. There's just like with the spirit of a person that was like a serial killer while they were alive, and affects negatively the world around them as much as they possibly can. There's also the flip side of that because you got to remember people basically are good at heart. Yeah, we all make mistakes. We all sin, to borrow the Christian reference. We all do things we probably shouldn't do, but most people honestly help each other. I mean, if they didn't, like, I don't think we would be here, to be honest with you. Um, and most of these types that I've experienced, anyways, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but most of these types that I've dealt with all served in some way. Some have been military, some have been firefighters or policemen, some have been just regular people that, they're just good Samaritans at heart. And so they kind of help people for whatever the reasons are. And the thing about these things is they affect people every day, and most people are completely unaware of it. And that's kind of what spirit guides are, um, or totems, or whatever you want to call them. Because generally, these are people that were very good and loving people at heart, and they died. And whether they decided to do it themselves or some benevolent creator just decided to give them the choice, they have served people around them by making them feel positive in some way or somehow positively affecting outcomes. Um, Good example of that is it's actually been a kind of reoccurring theme on a lot of TV shows, mainly like My Ghost Story, where like some family member or maybe even a stranger did something that ultimately saved the person's life in some way, whether it be like literally saving them from like a house fire or car accident or plane crash to like uplifting them just at a key moment so that they don't end up in a dark abyss of despair and depression. Um, so, it exists on both sides of the coin. Now, I I wanted to do a much longer thing about all of that that I just said, but I'm cutting that part just a little bit short because this part I think is just as, if not more important on some levels. There are some spiritual attachments that people think are good that really aren't. On the other hand, there are some spiritual attachments people think are very bad or evil that really are good. Key point. And remember, these are things that, I see. I can't prove any of it. You either take it on faith or you don't. But just for entertainment value, bear with me. So let's say you're at a racetrack, like a horse track, or at a casino, and you're gambling, and you've been on a losing streak forever, and then all of a sudden you start to win, and you win big. Well, most people, if they were to attribute it to spirit at all, would attribute that to a very positive, uplifting spirit. Not true. Because what these things do is they'll actually lift you up because they know what's coming. And they know the inevitable mistake that all gamblers, like real gamblers, make. Because gambling, and when I say gambling, I don't mean people that necessarily, just have a little fun in a casino. I mean hardcore gamblers. People that cannot resist taking a bet ever. Those kind of people. What they'll do is they'll let them win. And they'll let them win. And they'll let them win because they know that point's going to come when they have enough money to do everything they need to do. But that little bit of greed, that little tiny voice in the back of their head kicks in and tells them, "Oh, come on, bet it all." And then they lose everything. That is bad. And I mean, that's just an example of what I'm talking about, what one of these kind of attachments can do. Basically, what they do is they use the illusion of something good, but what they're really doing is like a like an elite predator. They're distracting you with something sparkly while they're coming up behind you to bite you on the neck and inject their venom. So while they might appear to be good, they're really bad. And there's all sorts of different types of these things. There's ones that deal with gambling, as I said, or addiction, or uh, all basically think of any like kind of positive aspect in life that is ruled by chance generally. Like you think you're going to get that business loan, and everything is looking positive. All the feedback you're getting from the financial institution you're getting a loan from looks good, and then one little thing makes it not happen. Well, what these things do is they know how to manipulate the world around them, or more appropriately, the world around you. So that's kind of how they work. And there's all sorts of them. They come in all different shapes and sizes because a lot of them are just, they're as varied as we are, really. On the flip side of that coin, I'm going to give you this is an actual real life example. This actually happened. All right, so it was very recently, actually. Um, and I do believe this. I do believe events were manipulated in a way, and I'll get to that. Recently, I let you all in a little bit of my personal life about my biological father and how I didn't really, well, I didn't know him really at all. Um, I never had that opportunity because I was brought up believing that he didn't want me. He didn't want anything to do with us, and he just bailed. I mean, really, that's what I was taught from like forever. And then I find out recently that that's not true, at all. And um, he passed away. And if these events were at all manipulated, like I think they were, it was like the flip side of my previous description of the negative side of things. It was actually positive because even though he died, I'm a big believer of things happening for a reason. So you know, I believe that even though he died, had I received this information maybe like 5, 10 years ago, I may have rejected it. But for whatever reason now today, I'm very open to it. And I can't say for certain that a spirit is behind that, but I kind of feel like it. There's just too many common threads pointing in that direction. Like I, okay, look, this is what happened. I didn't know that my father had been looking for me basically for my entire life. I had no idea. The reason he couldn't find me is because, well, it's a long story, but it involves a legal name change that I had to go through. It was actually like a 7 year long, like, bureaucratical and legal battle. Um, just to change my name back to my birth name. But, it's kind of a long and confusing story. But anyhow, so because my last name wasn't what it should have been, they couldn't find me for pretty much my whole life. I just like a few years ago finally got my name legally changed back to Paddock, um, which is my father's last name. And then for whatever reason, I was very curious about, and as irony would have it, about my maternal grandfather's side of the family, and so I signed up for Ancestry.com almost on a whim. Yet that's how my sister found me. And the funny part is uh, she had an ex husband named Martin who he was her ex, but they remained very close. They were really good friends. And without going into too much detail, Martin died. But on his deathbed, he had like a vision, maybe, or I don't know what. But he told her that she would find me. He passed away the next day. My sister called me on the phone. Then I find out my dad tried to find me my entire life, which when I heard that, I literally got chills because something told me. I mean, I didn't know it in my head, but my soul, my spirit, my heart knew it. Only I in my mind didn't recognize what all that was trying to tell me. So, I believe it happened the way it happened and when it happened because I'm at a point in my life where I would be more accepting of it. Honestly, I would be, and I am. So that could be technically a good example of a positive, uh, spiritual attachment. Because now I went from basically having very little family to having a huge family practically overnight. So there you go. You can make of that what you wish. Okay. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and let me know. Hit me up in chat or you can message me on Facebook, whatever is easier for you. And by the way, I do apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. Um, no, I know stuff happens, but it is what it is. So if anybody has any questions, hit me up real quick, and I'll read them and do my best to answer them on air. Ah, can you guys still hear me? it looks like my broadcast cut out for a minute, which I hope not, but I'm trying to figure all this out. I really don't understand why I'm having so many issues tonight, but um, pretty much, I'm answering a question Jeremy just asked in chat. He said, "How do you get good attachments? I need a few." Well, actually, it's pretty much the same way you would get a negative attachment. It's all kind of like by chance, being in the right place at the right time. Because really, well, ultimately, they choose you. Um, there are certain things you can do to either get a good attachment or even get rid of one. Um, using materials that you have faith in, or that like holy water or sage or whatever, or if you're Buddhist, like incense or what have you. But whatever it is, doesn't matter. It can be green jello, as long as you really have faith in it, it'll work. But yeah, so like it's really kind of chance in a way, or maybe it's design and just kind of appears random to us mere mortals. Who knows? But there are certain things you can do to try and attract them to you. One thing for certain is like if you're a very negative person at heart, like you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, and you're just really kind of like a negative person, chances are they're not gonna want to be around you. But if you're very positive in your thoughts and you're very positive in your actions, could be very likely that they may find you. Although, honestly, I don't have all the answers. I just know what I know, and I don't really know the answer to that. As far as like a surefire way, but there are certain steps you can take. If you're really serious about trying to attract good attachments to you, one thing I might suggest is like meditation. Meditation works regardless of what religious background you have, by the way, so don't think it's just like strictly a Buddhist thing or something. That's not necessarily true. But what you want to do is when you meditate, you want to visualize all the negative stuff in your life leaving like out one side of your body and all the positive coming in the other. And kind of like that positive visualization actually really helps, because whether you get a positive attachment or not, you will start to see positive results because a lot of the shit we go through seriously on a daily basis is shit we've created for ourselves because people have that negative outlook. They may not even voice it consciously, but it's in their mind, and the power of thought is astounding. You know, I actually have a really good example of what I mean. Uh, I had an issue with my lower spine when I was very young, probably around 9 or 10, possibly somewhere in that neighborhood. That's all I can tell you for certain. I might have been a little younger. I don't know. But in my memory of it is very vague. So plus I'm on native time, so there you have it. But a very bad lower back problems. At one point, they were actually afraid it could actually jeopardize me ever walking again. And my mom was, she's native, but she's converted to Christianity, has been most of my life. And I don't agree with that at all. That's not the choice for me, but I get it. Um, if it's good for my mom, that's all I care about. So, but she would drag me to church, and I couldn't honestly tell you like probably 99% of the stuff I heard in that place. But there is one thing. Um, One gentleman came, and I think he was a preacher from another church or something, and I think he probably spent a lot of time researching other belief systems because one thing he said stuck with me, and it still sticks with me today. He said, "The power of positive thinking is what creates miracles." And so I remember talking to him after the service was over, and talking to him about my back. He said, I'm not like a faith healer, um, but I do believe in the power of positive thought, and I think that if you were to meditate and tell yourself over and over that your back is good, or that there's nothing wrong with it, and you do that every single day for at least an hour every single day, it'll improve. So I did that. I meditated every single day. And I told myself, my back is good, my back is good, my back is good, my back is good, in my head, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Till finally got to a point where not only was I walking around just fine, I completely forgot anything was wrong with my back. Today, nothing wrong with it. I get aches and pains occasionally, but I think that has mostly to do with heavy lifting and stuff. So And I think the opposite could be said for negative. If you're trying to, albeit I don't know why you would, but if you were trying to actually attract negative stuff, if you act and think negative, that's what you're going to get. That's kind of what I mean when I say that the thing about the paranormal is that you get what you're looking for. Like if you're expecting to get negative stuff all the time, that's all you're going to find. That's at its core my biggest problem with demonologists because they believe everything is a demon. Even the so-called spirit of your grandmother, let's say, is a demon just simply trying to trick you. I cannot wrap my head around that, pardon my French, fucked up logic. Because if that were true, what's the point of even living? I mean, seriously, think about it. What would be the point? Because basically, what they're saying is that there's no hope. I mean, I know. To them, they believe that all spirits go to heaven or to hell or yada yada yada. I don't believe that, and I don't think they should believe it too, simply because of one part in their own book, the Bible, where it talks about how God gave us free will. Well, if we have free will, we should have a say on where we go. And if I die like this instant and decide that I want to stay here because this is where I'm happiest, do you really think a loving, benevolent God would say no to that? Somehow I can't buy that concept. I just can't. Um, and I'm not at all trying to bash anybody's beliefs. I'm just saying that me personally, I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around that. And so, hold on. I just got a message from Becca in Facebook. She can't get into our chat for some reason. Yeah. I think I already answered her question. She said, can negative thoughts attract negative attachments? Absolutely. Um, Because here's the thing: when you're, no matter what it is, if you're thinking positive, expecting positive, acting positive, positive is going to be attracted to that. And the same goes for negative. If you're always thinking negative, always expecting the negative, and always acting negative, that's what you're going to get. And something just occurred to me, and this is going to seem like I'm going back on something I just said, but this is just an observation. Um, and once again, I'm not truly trying to bash on anybody's religious beliefs, but it does occur to me that most Christians, not all, but most that I know, anyways, are very negative people. And what I mean by that is, like, on the surface, yes, they're happy-go-lucky. They're in love with their religion. Yada yada yada. But these are also the same people that are judging the rest of the world, and even though their own book says judge not lest ye be judged. These are the people that are telling you that if you don't believe what they believe, you're going to hell. So while I readily admit there are some outstandingly positive messages in their own dogma, in practice, most of the ones I've ever met are very negative. So it does kind of make me wonder if there are negative attachments in that equation. I'm sure, at least in some cases, there probably are. I mean, let's face it. Just look at who is it, Jerry Falwell, Benny Hinn. Like they're all fire and brimstone, and they can preach with the best of them, but their personal lives are kind of shitty. So I don't know. Food for thought. Anyways, folks, I've only got about a minute left. Um, Once again, I'm very sorry for the technical difficulties earlier, but the good news is we are going to have Abby as our regular guest host, uh, or guest host, co-host, and yeah, so I look forward to that. That'll actually be quite a relief. Um, yeah, and I will try and take care of the chat issues tomorrow. I'll start looking around for options. This is just one I thought looked simple and stuff. So, but I will look for other options tomorrow. Anyways, until next time, my pack, my tribe, peace out.